Through the mist-soaked hills of ancient Ireland, a weary traveler walks the forgotten paths where stone circles sleep beneath endless rain. Your feet find the rhythm of countless souls who have walked this way before, seeking something beyond the reach of ordinary days. The storm has been following you for hours now, gentle but persistent, as if the sky itself knows you need guidance. Then, through the silver curtain of rainfall, a single point of golden light flickers between the trees. Not the harsh glare of modern illumination, but the warm, dancing glow of candlelight against weathered stone. An ancient cottage emerges from the mist, like a memory half remembered, its thatched roof dark with rain, smoke rising from a chimney that has welcomed countless storms. The wooden door, carved with symbols worn smooth by centuries of weather, stands slightly open. Warmth spills out into the night, carrying the scent of burning peat and dried herbs. A voice, soft as rainfall on leaves, whispers an invitation you feel rather than hear. Come in from the storm, rest here a while. As you approach, the rain begins its gentle rhythm on the cottage roof above, each drop a note in an ancient song of shelter and sanctuary. Step across the weathered stone threshold, worn smooth by generations of travelers like yourself. Feel how your feet know this crossing, as if you have walked through this doorway in dreams. The cottage interior unfolds around you like a story told by firelight, revealing hand-hewn oak beams that have darkened with age and wisdom. The hearth glows at the room's heart, its flames casting dancing shadows on walls built from stones gathered from the nearby lake shore. Each stone holds the memory of water, of storms weathered and seasons turned. Simple wooden furniture fills the space with quiet dignity. A table scarred by use, chairs worn smooth by countless hands, shelves lined with jars of herbs whose names have been whispered in this place for centuries. Outside, the rain intensifies, drumming against diamond-paned windows with increasing urgency. But here within these ancient walls, you discover something rarer than shelter from the storm. This cottage exists as a cocoon of safety, wrapped in the sound of rainfall that seems to fall not just on the roof, but through time itself. Feel the weight of countless travelers who have found refuge within these walls before you. Their presence lingers not as ghosts, but as a deep sense of belonging that seeps from the very stones. Each person who crossed this threshold left something behind, a sigh of relief, a moment of peace, a prayer of gratitude. The cottage has gathered these offerings like rainwater, storing them in its beams and stones until the very air hums with accumulated rest. The floorboards creak gently beneath your feet as you move deeper into the room, each sound a welcome rather than a warning. These boards have supported the weight of sorrow and joy, of exhaustion and renewal. They know the difference between footsteps that flee and footsteps that finally, gratefully, stop running. A worn chair waits beside the crackling fire, its cushions shaped by bodies that have surrendered their burdens here. As you settle into its embrace, the chair seems to sigh with recognition. The storm outside embraces the dwelling more completely now, wrapping around the cottage like protective arms. Rain streams down the windows in patterns that catch the firelight, creating moving tapestries of gold and silver. The sound grows richer, more complex, not just the simple percussion of water on roof, but a symphony of shelter. Each drop that strikes the thatch above adds its voice to a chorus that has been singing the same song of sanctuary for longer than memory can reach. The fire pops and settles, sending sparks up the chimney to dance with the rain. Steam rises from your rain-dampened clothes, carrying away the chill of the journey that brought you here. Your breathing begins to match the rhythm of the rainfall, deep and steady, as the cottage works its ancient magic of transformation. From the shadows beside the hearth, a figure emerges so quietly You might have thought them part of the cottage itself. An elderly keeper, neither fully man nor woman but something timeless, moves with the careful grace of someone who has tended this sanctuary for longer than seasons can count. Their eyes hold depths like still water, reflecting centuries of storms weathered and souls sheltered. Without words, they gesture toward a clay cup warming beside the fire. Steam rises from tea brewed from herbs gathered in moonlit meadows beyond the cottage walls. Chamomile that grew where ancient stones mark forgotten boundaries. Mint that flourished beside holy wells. And something else. Something that tastes of rain itself and the dreams of sleeping earth. The keeper's hands are maps of devotion, marked by decades of tending this sacred threshold. They have lit countless candles for travelers arriving in darkness, have stirred the fire to life on the coldest nights, have whispered blessings over tea that carries more than warmth. As they settle into the chair across from yours, their presence brings the same comfort as the cottage walls themselves, ancient, steady, completely trustworthy. "This place has been waiting for you," the keeper says, their voice carrying the cadence of rainfall on leaves. "Not just tonight, but for all the nights your soul has wandered, seeking rest that goes deeper than sleep." Their words blend with the sound of rain drumming steadily on the roof above, creating a rhythm that seems to reach into your chest and slow your heartbeat to match its ancient pulse. The keeper speaks of the cottage's purpose as sanctuary for lost souls and weary hearts, how it calls to those who have forgotten what true rest feels like. Some arrive running from storms, they continue, eyes reflecting the firelight like still pools. Others come walking slowly, carrying burdens they can no longer name. All find what they need here, though it may not be what they expected to discover. Outside, the rain intensifies its rhythm, each drop a word in a language older than human speech. The keeper listens to this percussion with the attention of someone reading sacred text, nodding occasionally as if the storm itself is sharing secrets meant only for their ears. "Long before your footsteps found the path to this door," the keeper begins, settling deeper into their chair as the fire crackles between you. "This cottage has been gathering stories. Each storm that has drummed against these walls, each traveler who has crossed this threshold, each night that has wrapped around these stones, all have become part of what this place offers to those who need sanctuary." Their voice takes on the quality of distant thunder, gentle but carrying great depth. The rain above seems to recognize the beginning of an ancient tale, adjusting its rhythm to provide accompaniment to words that have been spoken here countless times, yet never lose their power to transform. "The story I am about to share with you is not just the history of these walls and this hearth," the keeper continues, their gaze moving between your face and the dancing flames. "It is the story of why rain falls differently here, why storms seek out this dwelling, why travelers like yourself are drawn to this threshold when their souls cry out for rest that goes deeper than ordinary sleep." The keeper's voice begins to blend with the rainfall outside, creating a hypnotic rhythm that seems to bypass your ears and speak directly to some deeper part of your being. The sound of story and storm weave together until you cannot tell where one ends and the other begins. This is how the ancient tales were meant to be told, not as entertainment, but as medicine for spirits grown weary with wandering. The fire settles lower in the grate, its flames taking on the steady rhythm of breathing. The rain continues its percussion on the thatched roof, each drop adding its voice to the symphony of shelter that has been playing here for centuries. Your eyelids grow heavy, not with ordinary tiredness, but with the deep relaxation that comes when the soul recognizes it has finally found safe harbor. The keeper's eyes hold yours with gentle authority, the kind that comes not from power over others, but from having witnessed the healing that happens when stories are shared in sacred spaces. "Listen now," they whisper, their words carrying the weight of rain and the warmth of candlelight. to the tale of how this sanctuary came to be, and why the very stones beneath your feet remember every prayer ever whispered within these walls. Long ago, when the mists between worlds hung thicker, and the old ways still whispered through every grove and glen, this cottage came to be through the devotion of a single soul seeking solitude in the wild countryside. Brother Tian was his name, a monk who had grown weary of monastery walls and yearned to find the divine not in carved stone, but in the living cathedral of forest and field. He wandered for months through the untamed hills of Ireland, carrying only a worn leather satchel and a heart full of questions that could not be answered within the confines of any human structure. His feet followed deer paths and forgotten pilgrim routes, guided by something deeper than maps or memory. The rain was his constant companion during those searching days, falling gently on his shoulders like blessings from a sky that understood his quest. When Brother Kian finally stopped walking, it was here, at this exact spot where 3 ancient streams converge beneath the spreading arms of an oak tree, older than written history. The tree's roots reached deep into earth that had never known the plow, while its branches stretched toward stars that had watched the first humans kindle fire in these hills. Something in the convergence of water and wood, of earth and sky, spoke to the monk's searching spirit with a voice clearer than any bell that had ever called him to prayer. He chose this place not for its convenience or comfort, but because the rain always fell gently here, blessing the earth with perpetual renewal. Even during the fiercest storms that lashed the surrounding countryside, the rainfall at this convergence remained steady and peaceful, as if the very air held some ancient covenant with tranquility. The streams sang different songs as they flowed toward their meeting. One carried the voice of mountain springs, another the whispers of moorland pools, and the third, the deep murmur of forest brooks that had never seen sunlight. With his own hands, Brother Cian gathered stones from each stream bed, building walls that would hold not just mortar, but the memory of flowing water. He cut timber from trees that offered themselves willingly, their wood seasoned by decades of rain and wind until it rang like bells when struck. The cottage rose slowly, built not with haste but with the patience of someone who understood that sacred spaces cannot be rushed into existence. Each stone was placed with prayer, each beam fitted with intention. Brother Tian worked through seasons of rain and seasons of sun, but always the gentle precipitation at this convergence continued its blessing, keeping the ground soft for building and the air sweet with the scent of growing things. The oak tree watched over his labors like a benevolent guardian, its leaves whispering encouragement when the work grew difficult and doubt crept into the monk's heart. As the cottage took shape, something remarkable began to happen. Brother Cian's prayers, whispered over stone and timber during countless hours of solitary labor, began to seep into the very materials of his dwelling. The walls absorbed his devotions like earth absorbing rainfall, storing them in their substance until the stones themselves hummed with accumulated peace. The wooden beams drank in his meditations, their grain becoming channels for the flow of sacred intention. The rain seemed to recognize what was being built here, adjusting its rhythm to match the monk's work. When he needed dry days for setting stones, the clouds would part just long enough for mortar to cure. When the earth grew dusty and his throat parched from labor, gentle showers would arrive to refresh both man and land. It was as if the sky itself had become partner in this act of creation, blessing the cottage into existence with each drop that fell. Brother Cian lived in his sanctuary for 7 years, tending a small garden where herbs grew with unusual vigor, keeping bees whose honey tasted of wildflowers that bloomed in no other place, and maintaining a well whose water stayed pure and cold regardless of season. He spoke little during those years, finding that words seemed unnecessary when surrounded by the constant conversation of wind and rain, stream and stone. His prayers grew simpler as time passed, eventually becoming nothing more than the rhythm of his breathing matched to the eternal percussion of rainfall on thatch. He discovered that the cottage itself had become his prayer, its very existence a testament to the possibility of finding the sacred in solitude, the divine in devotion to simple, honest work. When Brother Cian's time in this world drew to its close, he passed as gently as rain soaking into willing earth. Some say he simply walked into the mist one morning and became part of the convergence he had served so faithfully. Others believe his spirit merged with the cottage itself, his prayers becoming part of its foundation, his peace settling into its stones like sediment in still water. After his passing, the cottage remained, but it was no longer empty. The 7 years of prayer and devotion had transformed it into something more than shelter. It had become a sanctuary that called to those whose souls recognized the need for rest that goes deeper than sleep. The rain continued to fall here with the same gentle persistence, but now each drop carried the memory of Brother Cian's devotion, his understanding that true peace comes not from escaping the storms of life, but from finding the still center where all storms are welcomed and transformed. The cottage began to glow softly in the darkness, its windows becoming beacons for travelers who had lost their way, not just on forest paths, but in the deeper wilderness of the human heart. Decades passed like seasons of rain, each storm adding its voice to the cottage's growing song of sanctuary. The dwelling waited with patient grace, its windows glowing softly through countless nights, its chimneys sending smoke signals to the stars that spoke of warmth available to any who might need it. The 3 streams continued their eternal conversation beneath the ancient oak, their waters carrying whispers to distant valleys about a place where weary souls could find rest. The cottage's first guests arrived during the harshest winter in living memory, when snow fell for 40 days and the wind howled like banshees through the bare branches of the forest. Ain and Brendan were their names, a young couple who had fled their village when the harvest failed, and cruel landlords demanded payment in blood rather than coin. They had been walking for weeks, their feet wrapped in rags, their hope worn thin as the clothes on their backs. The storm that brought them to the cottage's threshold was fierce beyond measure, with winds that bent ancient trees and snow that fell so thick it erased the world beyond arm's reach. But as they stumbled through the forest, following a path they could not see but somehow felt beneath their frozen feet, the weather began to change. The wind gentled to a whisper, the snow transformed to the softest rain, and through the darkness ahead, a golden light beckoned like a star fallen to earth. When they reached the cottage door, it opened before they could knock, revealing warmth and light that seemed impossible in such a desolate night. The interior welcomed them with the same grace that had sheltered Brother Cian decades before. The fire leaped higher in the grate as if fed by their need. Candles flickered to life in corners that had been dark, and the very air seemed to wrap around their shivering bodies like the embrace of a loving mother. Ain collapsed into the chair beside the hearth, her hands so cold She could not feel the warmth of the flames that danced just inches away. Brendan stood in the doorway, afraid to fully enter, certain that such sanctuary could not be real, that they would wake to find themselves still lost in the storm. But the cottage held them both with infinite patience, waiting for their fear to transform into trust. The rain welcomed them as it had welcomed the monk years before, drumming against the windows with a rhythm that seemed to match their heartbeats as they gradually slowed from panic to peace. Steam rose from their wet clothes, carrying away not just the chill of the storm, but the deeper cold that had settled in their bones during weeks of wandering without hope. On the table, they found bread that was still warm, cheese that tasted of summer meadows, and honey that carried the essence of flowers they had thought never to see again. A pot of tea waited by the fire, brewed from herbs that somehow knew exactly what their bodies needed. Chamomile for Ane's shattered nerves, mint for Brendan's queasy stomach, and something else that tasted of rain itself and the promise that morning would come. They stayed through that endless winter, watching the snow pile against the windows while the cottage held them safe in its embrace of stone and timber. Brendan learned to tend the fire that never seemed to require fuel, yet never burned low, while Ane discovered herbs growing in the cottage garden despite the frozen ground, their leaves green and vital beneath blankets of snow. As the weeks passed, their hearts began to heal in the cottage's gentle atmosphere. The fear that had driven them from their village slowly melted like snow in spring rain, replaced by something they had almost forgotten existed, peace that went deeper than the mere absence of danger. They found themselves speaking in whispers, not from fear of being overheard, but from reverence for the sacred space that sheltered them. The rain continued its faithful percussion throughout those winter months, sometimes gentle as a lullaby, sometimes intense enough to drown out all other sounds. But always it carried the same message, that this place existed outside the ordinary flow of time and trouble, that within these walls the storms of the world could not reach the deepest chambers of the human heart. When spring finally arrived and the snow began its retreat, Ine and Brendan faced a choice they had not expected to confront. The cottage had healed them so completely that they could return to the world beyond its threshold, but leaving felt like abandoning paradise. They walked the garden paths where flowers bloomed with unusual vigor, sat beside the 3 streams where the water sang of renewal and hope, and felt the ancient oak's branches blessing them with shade that carried the weight of centuries. In the end, they chose to leave not because they had to, but because they understood that the cottage's gift was not meant to be hoarded. The sanctuary had restored their capacity for joy, their ability to trust in the possibility of goodness, their faith that somewhere in the world there were still places where love was stronger than fear. These gifts were meant to be carried back into the wider world, shared with others who had forgotten that such healing was possible. On their last morning, as they packed their few belongings and prepared to continue their journey, the cottage seemed to sigh with satisfaction rather than sorrow. The rain fell gently on the roof above, each drop a blessing for the road ahead. Ane left wildflowers on the windowsill, while Brendan added his own prayer to the countless others that had soaked into the cottage's stones. They departed renewed, but the cottage remembered their gratitude, their peace, their transformation from despair to hope. Their presence had added something to the sanctuary's growing soul, the knowledge that healing was possible, that love could triumph over loss, that even the most broken hearts could be made whole again. The cottage held these memories like treasures, storing them in its beams and stones to offer comfort to future travelers who would arrive carrying similar wounds. The rain continued to fall, patient and eternal, ready to welcome the next souls who would find their way to this threshold between worlds. Word spread quietly among those who understood that such places exist in the margins of the ordinary world, where ancient wisdom still flows like underground streams. Not through proclamations or written records, but in the way that knowledge of healing springs passes from grandmother to granddaughter, or the locations of fairy rings are whispered between children who still believe in magic. The cottage called to those whose souls recognize the difference between mere shelter and true sanctuary. Artists arrived first, drawn by dreams they could not explain. Painters who had lost their vision in the noise of cities found their eyes opening again to colors that existed nowhere else. The particular gold of candlelight reflected in rain-washed windows, the silver green of moss growing on stones blessed by centuries of gentle precipitation. They came with canvases and brushes, expecting to capture the cottage's beauty, but discovered instead that the cottage was capturing them, drawing their scattered spirits back into focus like light through a lens. Musicians followed, carrying instruments that had grown silent in their hands, melodies that had fled from hearts grown weary with performing for audiences who had forgotten how to truly listen. In the cottage's embrace, surrounded by the eternal percussion of rain on thatch, their music returned transformed. They found rhythms in the three streams' conversation, harmonies in the wind through the ancient oak's branches, and in the steady drumming of rainfall above, they discovered the heartbeat that underlies all true song. Writers arrived with pages full of words that had lost their meaning, stories that felt hollow as empty shells. The cottage's atmosphere, thick with accumulated prayers and dreams, restored their faith in the power of language to heal rather than merely entertain. They wrote by candlelight while rain painted moving patterns on the windows, their words taking on the weight and flow of water, the patience and persistence of stone. Each artist who sheltered here left something behind, not just gratitude, but a piece of their renewed vision that added to the cottage's growing collection of beauty. Paintings appeared on walls that had been bare, their colors seeming to glow with inner light. Melodies lingered in the air long after their creators had departed, weaving themselves into the constant music of rain and wind. Poems carved themselves into memory, becoming part of the cottage's vocabulary of comfort. Mothers began arriving with children whose bodies carried illnesses that no physician could name or cure. These were ailments of the spirit as much as the flesh, children who had stopped speaking after witnessing cruelties too great for young minds to process, little ones whose laughter had been stolen by poverty and neglect, babies who refused to thrive in a world that seemed to offer nothing but hardship. The cottage received these small refugees with particular tenderness, its healing atmosphere adjusting itself to their needs like water finding the shape of its container. The gentle rain above sang lullabies in languages older than words, while the fire in the hearth danced with flames that cast shadows shaped like friendly animals and dancing figures. The three streams outside the windows provided a constant whisper of hope, their voices carrying promises that tomorrow would be different, that healing was not only possible but inevitable. Children recovered in ways that defied explanation but demanded no justification. Color returned to pale cheeks, laughter bubbled up from throats that had been silent, and eyes that had been dull with pain began to sparkle with curiosity about the world beyond the cottage walls. Their mothers watched in wonder as the sanctuary worked its ancient magic, restoring not just health, but the capacity for joy that is every child's birthright. The healing was not limited to the young. The mothers themselves found their own wounds tending as they watched their children flourish. The guilt that had eaten at their hearts like acid, the terrible weight of being unable to protect their little ones from the world's cruelty, began to dissolve in the cottage's atmosphere of unconditional acceptance. They remembered what it felt like to hope, to trust, to believe that love was stronger than any force that sought to destroy it. Scholars arrived carrying questions that had tormented them for years, mysteries of philosophy and theology that had kept them awake through countless nights. They came seeking answers in the cottage's collection of ancient texts, books that appeared on shelves when needed and disappeared when their wisdom had been absorbed. But the cottage taught them something more valuable than any written knowledge, that some truths could only be understood through experience, that wisdom was not something to be grasped, but something to be lived. In the rhythm of falling rain, they discovered patterns that connected all learning, rhythms that revealed the underlying harmony between seemingly contradictory ideas. The cottage's atmosphere, saturated with centuries of prayer and contemplation, opened their minds to understanding that transcended mere intellectual knowledge. They found answers not in books, but in the way raindrops traced paths down windows, in the dance of flames in the hearth, in the eternal conversation of the three streams that met beneath the ancient oak. Pilgrims arrived from distant lands, following paths that existed more in the realm of spirit than geography. They came seeking sacred sites marked on no earthly maps, holy places that could only be found by those whose hearts were prepared to recognize them. The cottage welcomed them all, Christians seeking the face of their God in creation's beauty, followers of older ways who recognized the divine in stone and stream, seekers from traditions that had no names but knew the language of wind and rain. Each visitor, regardless of their faith or philosophy, found what they needed in the cottage's embrace. The sanctuary had learned to speak all languages of the heart, to offer comfort in forms that each soul could recognize and receive. Prayer wheels spun in harmony with rosary beads, meditation cushions shared space with kneeling benches, and the smoke from the chimney carried all offerings toward the same infinite sky. Each visitor left something behind, adding to the cottage's growing soul like tributaries feeding a great river. The artists left beauty, the healers left compassion, the scholars left wisdom, the pilgrims left devotion. The cottage gathered all these gifts, weaving them into an atmosphere so rich with accumulated love that simply breathing its air was itself a form of prayer. The rain continued its faithful watch, drumming against the roof with the patience of eternity, washing the world clean while keeping the cottage's threshold always ready for the next soul who would stumble out of the storm and into sanctuary. The rain that falls upon this cottage carries within each drop the accumulated memory of all who have ever sheltered beneath its song. This is not the ordinary precipitation that waters fields and fills rivers, but something far more profound. Rainfall that has been transformed by its contact with sacred ground, charged with the intentions of countless souls who have found healing within these walls. Each storm that approaches this convergence of streams does so with purpose beyond the simple movement of weather. The clouds gather not merely because atmospheric conditions demand it, but because the cottage itself calls to them, sending invisible signals through the realm where sky meets earth. The rain recognizes this summons, responding with the faithfulness of an old friend who has never failed to answer when needed. Listen carefully to the percussion above your head, and you will hear more than the random drumming of water on thatch. Each drop carries within it the echo of prayers whispered in desperate moments, the sigh of relief from travelers who thought they would never find rest, the quiet weeping of mothers whose children have been restored to wholeness. The rain has absorbed these sounds, these emotions, these sacred moments of transformation, and now returns them to the world as a constant blessing. When Brother Kian first chose this spot for his sanctuary, he noticed how the rain fell differently here than in the surrounding countryside. While fierce storms might rage just beyond the ancient oak's branches, the precipitation at this convergence remained gentle and steady, as if the very air held some covenant with peace. He understood, with the intuition of a soul attuned to mystery, that this was no accident of geography, but a sign of the sacred nature of this ground. Over the decades since the cottage's completion, the rain has grown even more distinctive in its behavior. It knows when weary souls approach along the forest paths and responds by intensifying its welcoming rhythm. The sound becomes richer, more layered, speaking in harmonies that bypass the mind and speak directly to the heart's deepest need for comfort. This is rain that has learned to sing lullabies, to whisper encouragement, to drum out the tempo of healing itself. The cottage keeper, who has tended this threshold for longer than memory can measure, speaks of storms that arrive carrying messages from those who once found peace within these walls. Former guests who have returned to the wider world still send their gratitude through the medium of wind and water, their thanks transformed into precipitation that falls with particular sweetness on the cottage roof. Each storm is thus a reunion, a gathering of souls connected across time and distance by their shared experience of sanctuary. On nights when the rain falls most intensely, those sensitive to such things can hear voices in the percussion, not ghostly whispers that inspire fear, but the warm murmur of conversation between old friends. Artists who painted by this firelight decades ago still share their joy in colors discovered here. Musicians who found their lost melodies in the cottage's embrace continue to offer their songs to comfort new arrivals. Mothers whose children were healed in this atmosphere still send their blessings for other little ones who need the same miraculous restoration. The rain remembers every moment of transformation that has occurred within these walls. It recalls the exact instant when Ain's shivering stopped and warmth returned to her frozen hands. It holds the memory of the first child who laughed again after months of silence, the precise moment when a scholar's tortured questions dissolved into peaceful understanding. These memories are not stored as mere recordings, but as living forces that continue to work healing in the present moment. Every drop that strikes the cottage roof carries within it the potential for miracle, the accumulated power of countless prayers answered and souls restored. The rain has become a medium through which the sacred operates in the world, transforming ordinary water into something that can wash away more than physical dirt. It cleanses hearts of despair, minds of confusion, spirits of the accumulated grime of living in a world that has forgotten how to be gentle. The three streams that converge beneath the ancient oak contribute their own memories to this sacred precipitation. The mountain stream carries the clarity of high places where earth meets sky, its waters holding the memory of snow that has never known pollution, of springs that bubble up from the planet's deepest heart. The moorland stream brings the wisdom of wide spaces, where wind speaks truths too vast for human language, its flow carrying the essence of heather and gorse, of stones that have watched the dance of seasons for millennia. The forest stream contributes the mysteries of deep woods, where sunlight filters through leaves like cathedral light, where deer paths follow roots older than human memory, where every tree holds stories of growth and endurance. These three voices join in the cottage's vicinity, their combined waters creating a harmony that rises into the atmosphere and returns as blessed rain. The cottage itself has learned to participate in this sacred cycle. Its stones, warmed by countless fires and blessed by innumerable prayers, release their accumulated peace into the air as invisible vapor that mingles with the clouds above. The timber beams, seasoned by years of sheltering souls in need, exhale the essence of sanctuary that rises to meet the gathering storms. Even the thatch, woven from reeds that grew in holy pools, contributes its own blessing to the atmospheric conversation. This is why the rain here sounds different from precipitation anywhere else in the world. It carries within each drop not just hydrogen and oxygen, but hope and healing, memory and miracle. It falls with the weight of accumulated love, strikes the roof with the rhythm of countless hearts that have found peace, and flows from the eaves with the gathered gratitude of all who have been transformed by their encounter with true sanctuary. As you sit by the cottage fire, listening to this extraordinary percussion above your head, you become part of the rain's growing memory. Your own need for rest, your journey through storm to reach this threshold, your gradual relaxation in the cottage's embrace. All of this is being absorbed by the falling water, added to its vast collection of healing stories. When you eventually leave this place and return to the wider world, part of you will remain here in the rain's memory. Future travelers will benefit from your peace, your transformation, your discovery that sanctuary still exists for those who need it most. The rain will carry your story forward, weaving it into the complex tapestry of comfort that this cottage offers to every soul brave enough to step across its threshold. The percussion continues above, each drop a note in an eternal symphony of shelter and healing, each storm a new movement in the endless composition of sanctuary that plays on through all seasons, all years, all the countless nights when weary travelers find their way home to rest. The cottage keeper rises from their chair beside the hearth, moving with the fluid grace of someone who exists in harmony with the rhythms of this sacred place. Their eyes, which have witnessed countless storms and sheltered innumerable souls, now hold a depth that speaks of mysteries about to be revealed. The fire settles lower in the grate, its flames taking on the steady pulse of a heartbeat, while outside the rain adjusts its tempo to match this moment of profound sharing. There is something about this cottage that I have never spoken aloud. The keeper begins, their voice carrying the weight of centuries held in trust. A secret so profound that it changes the very nature of what you experience here, transforms your understanding of why the rain falls as it does, why travelers find their way to this threshold when their souls cry out for healing that goes deeper than any earthly remedy can provide. The keeper moves to the window where rain traces silver paths down glass that has witnessed more transformations than any mirror could reflect. Their fingers touch the weathered wood of the sill, and for a moment, the cottage itself seems to hold its breath, waiting for words that will finally give voice to its deepest mystery. The rain that falls here is not bound by the ordinary laws that govern precipitation elsewhere in the world, the keeper continues, their reflection merging with the patterns of water on glass. Each drop is charged with intention, blessed with purpose, transformed by its contact with ground that has been sanctified by centuries of prayer and healing. But this is only the beginning of what makes this place unlike any other sanctuary on earth. The keeper turns back to face you, their expression carrying the solemnity of someone about to share sacred knowledge that has been held in trust for generations. The rain above intensifies slightly, as if the cottage itself is leaning in to listen to its own deepest truth being spoken aloud. This cottage exists partially outside the normal flow of time, the keeper reveals, their words falling into the room like stones dropped into still water, creating ripples that seem to reach into the very foundations of reality. The moment you cross the threshold, you stepped not just into shelter from the storm, but into a space where past and present and future converge, like the three streams that meet beneath the ancient oak outside these walls. The implications of this revelation settle into your consciousness, like rain soaking into thirsty earth. Suddenly, the sense of timelessness you have felt since arriving makes perfect sense. The way the cottage seemed to know your needs before you could voice them. The manner in which healing began the moment you entered this space. The feeling that you have been here before in dreams or distant memories. All of this flows from the cottage's unique relationship with the river of time itself. Brother Kian, in his 7 years of prayer and devotion, did more than build a sanctuary, the keeper explains, settling back into their chair as the fire responds to their presence with renewed warmth. His accumulated prayers, his deep longing for a place where souls could find true rest, created a kind of fold in the fabric of existence itself. The cottage became a pocket of eternity tucked into the world of temporal things, a place where the healing that takes lifetimes elsewhere can happen in the space of a single storm. The rain's rhythm changes again, becoming more complex, more layered, as if multiple storms from different times are playing their song simultaneously on the cottage roof. You begin to understand that what you are hearing is not just tonight's precipitation, but an echo of every storm that has ever blessed this dwelling, all of them occurring in the eternal now that exists within these walls. Every person who has ever found healing here remains connected to this place through bonds that transcend ordinary understanding, the keeper continues, their voice taking on the quality of distant thunder, gentle but carrying vast power. The cottage holds them all in its memory, and they, wherever they may be in the world, continue to send their strength and peace back to this sanctuary through the medium of rain and wind, through the invisible currents that flow between all hearts that have known true rest. This explains the extraordinary richness of the cottage's atmosphere, the sense that you are surrounded not by emptiness, but by a vast, loving presence. The peace you feel here is not just the absence of disturbance, but the accumulated tranquility of every soul who has ever been transformed within these walls. Their healing has become part of the cottage's very substance, woven into its stones and timbers like golden threads in a tapestry of sanctuary. The rain connects all visitors across centuries in a web of shared tranquility, the keeper reveals, rising again to add another log to the fire that somehow never seems to require fuel, yet never burns low. When you hear the percussion above your head, you are listening to a conversation between all the souls who have ever needed the kind of rest that this cottage provides. Your own heartbeat is joining that rhythm, adding your voice to a chorus that has been singing the same song of healing for longer than human memory can reach. The keeper's words seem to unlock something within your understanding, a recognition that goes deeper than intellectual comprehension. You realize that you have not stumbled upon this cottage by accident, that your journey through the storm was guided by the same force that brings the rain to fall with such perfect timing, such healing intention. This is why some travelers, when they are ready to leave, find that they cannot, the keeper says with infinite gentleness. Not because they are trapped, but because they recognize that they have found their true home, the place where their souls were always meant to rest. They choose to become part of the cottage's story, to add their own prayers to the accumulated blessing that this sanctuary offers to the world. The rain above seems to sing with approval at these words, its rhythm becoming so complex and beautiful that it sounds like a choir of angels celebrating the mystery of love made manifest in stone and timber, in the simple act of offering shelter to those who need it most. Outside, the storm continues its eternal vigil, each drop carrying messages of hope across the boundaries of time itself, connecting every heart that has ever known true peace in this sacred space where rain falls like liquid prayer and healing flows as naturally as water from an eternal spring. The keeper moves to the cottage's ancient door, their hand resting on wood that has welcomed countless souls across the centuries. Through the rain-streaked glass beside the threshold, you can see the eternal dance of storm and sanctuary that has played out here since Brother Cian first raised these walls with prayer-soaked hands. The cottage stands as patient as stone, as enduring as the streams that converge beneath the oak, maintaining its vigil through all seasons and all the turning years. My role here is not one I chose in the ordinary sense, the keeper explains, their voice blending with the rain's percussion like harmony joining melody. I was once a traveler like yourself, arriving broken and desperate during a storm that seemed to mirror the chaos in my own heart. The cottage healed me as it has healed you, restored my capacity for peace, as it restores all who cross this threshold with genuine need. The keeper's eyes reflect the firelight as they share the deeper truth of their presence here. But when the time came to leave, when my healing was complete, and the world beyond these walls called to me again, I discovered something unexpected. The cottage had need of me as well. It required someone to tend the threshold, to keep the lamp burning in the window, to ensure that no soul seeking sanctuary would ever find the door closed against them. You begin to understand that the keeper's presence here is not servitude, but partnership, a sacred collaboration between human devotion and the cottage's own mysterious purpose. They have become part of the sanctuary's living essence, their prayers and care woven into its very foundations, like mortar between stones. Some who find this cottage choose to stay, the keeper continues, settling back into their chair as the rain above adjusts its rhythm to match the cadence of revelation. not from inability to leave, but from recognition that they have found their true calling. They understand that their own healing was preparation for a greater purpose, to become guardians of this threshold where miracles happen as naturally as rain falls from gathering clouds. The cottage holds many such souls, the keeper explains, though most visitors see only the visible guardian who tends the fire and brews the healing tea. Former travelers who chose to remain have become part of the cottage's extended being, their presence felt in the warmth that radiates from the walls, the peace that settles over new arrivals like a blessing, the sense that this space is alive with accumulated love. There is the artist who arrived during the terrible winter of 1847. Her hands frozen so badly she thought she would never paint again, the keeper shares, their voice carrying the weight of remembered stories. The cottage restored not just her ability to create, but her understanding of why art matters. She chose to stay, and now her invisible brush adds beauty to every sunrise that graces these windows, every shadow that dances on these walls when the fire burns bright. The rain seems to whisper agreement, its drops painting temporary masterpieces on the glass that shift and flow with artistic grace. You realize that the extraordinary beauty you have noticed in every detail of this cottage, the way the firelight plays across the worn wooden surfaces, the manner in which shadows fall with perfect composition, is not accident, but the ongoing creation of souls who have dedicated their gifts to maintaining this sanctuary's power to heal. The musician who sheltered here during the plague years still fills our silence with melodies that comfort the grieving, the keeper continues. The scholar who arrived carrying questions too heavy for one mind to bear now ensures that every visitor finds exactly the wisdom they need, whether in books that appear on shelves when required, or in the sudden clarity that comes when rain drums the perfect rhythm for understanding. These invisible guardians work in harmony with the cottage's own mysterious consciousness, their combined efforts creating an atmosphere so rich with healing potential that simply breathing the air begins the process of transformation. They are the reason the fire never requires fuel yet never burns low, why the tea always tastes of exactly the herbs each visitor's body craves, why the cottage seems to anticipate needs before they can be voiced. The rain accepts them, weaves their essence into its perpetual song, the keeper explains, rising to tend the fire that responds to their presence like a living thing recognizing its caretaker. Their love becomes part of every storm that blesses this dwelling. Their peace flows in every drop that strikes the roof above your head. They have become part of the cottage's prayer, voices in its constant conversation with the divine forces that govern healing and hope. The cottage continues its patient vigil through all weathers and all seasons, the keeper explains, its lamp always burning in the window like a lighthouse beacon for souls lost in storms of despair. Whether the night is dark with natural weather or the deeper darkness of human suffering, the cottage maintains its readiness to offer sanctuary to any who find their way to its threshold. Storm and sanctuary dance together in endless cycle of welcome, the keeper says, their words carrying the rhythm of the rain itself. Each feeds the other. The cottage calls the storms that bring travelers in need, while the storms wash clean the paths that lead seeking souls to this door. It is a partnership as old as the first prayer whispered over the first stone Brother Kian placed in these foundations. The The cottage's vigil extends beyond mere shelter, encompassing a deeper commitment to the healing of the world itself. Every soul transformed within these walls returns to the wider world carrying seeds of peace, their own healing becoming a source of comfort for others who have forgotten that sanctuary still exists for those who need it most. The rain continues its faithful watch above, each drop a guardian angel, each storm a gathering of invisible protectors who ensure that this threshold between worlds remains open for all who would cross from despair into hope, from brokenness into wholeness, from the storms of life into the eternal peace that waits at the heart of all true sanctuary. Feel yourself becoming part of the cottage's ancient narrative, your own story weaving seamlessly into the tapestry of healing that has been growing here for centuries. The chair beneath you seems to recognize your weight, adjusting itself to cradle not just your physical form, but the deeper weariness that brought you to this threshold. Your breathing has already begun to synchronize with the cottage's own rhythm, the gentle rise and fall of ancient timbers settling into their nightly rest. The rain recognizes your need for restoration, responding by intensifying its soothing rhythm against the thatch above. Each drop that strikes the roof carries within it the accumulated peace of every soul who has ever found sanctuary here. And now that peace is being offered to you with the same generous abundance that has blessed countless travelers before you. The cottage walls embrace you as they have embraced all the others, the desperate mother with her fevered child, the artist whose hands had forgotten how to create beauty, the scholar whose mind had become a prison of unanswered questions. Your story is already becoming part of the cottage's vast collection of transformations. The moment you stepped across the threshold, rain-soaked and weary from your journey through the storm, the cottage began the gentle work of gathering your scattered pieces and weaving them back into wholeness. This process happens not through force or urgency, but with the patient persistence of water wearing smooth the sharpest stones, of seasons turning winter into spring through countless small changes that accumulate into miracle. The cottage keeper watches this transformation with eyes that have witnessed it countless times, yet never lose their wonder at the mystery of healing. They see how your shoulders have already begun to release their burden of tension, how your hands have unclenched from fists that were ready to fight the world into submission. The cottage's atmosphere works like gentle rain on parched earth, soaking into the deepest places where ordinary comfort cannot reach. Every breath you draw in this sacred space carries more than air. It holds the essence of accumulated prayers, the distilled peace of souls who have found rest after long wandering. The cottage has been gathering this healing atmosphere for centuries, storing it in its stones and timbers like a vast reservoir of tranquility that never runs dry no matter how many thirsting spirits come to drink from its depths. Your breathing synchronizes with rainfall's gentle, eternal pulse, each inhalation drawing peace deeper into your being, while each exhalation releases the accumulated stress and sorrow that you have carried for so long. The rhythm becomes automatic, natural, as if your lungs have remembered a way of breathing they learned in some distant time when rest was still possible, when peace was not a luxury, but a birthright. The cottage walls seem to pulse gently with this shared rhythm, their stones warming slightly as if responding to your presence. This is not imagination, but the cottage's way of acknowledging that you have become part of its story, that your healing is now woven into the ongoing miracle that this place offers to the world. The very foundations beneath your feet hold the memory of every other soul who has sat in this chair, gazed into this fire, listened to this same eternal percussion of rain on ancient thatch. Sink deeper into the worn cushions as storm and sanctuary work their healing magic around you and within you. The chair has been shaped by countless bodies that have surrendered their burdens here, and it knows exactly how to support not just your physical weight, but the invisible load of grief and disappointment that every traveler carries when they first arrive at this threshold between worlds. The fire in the hearth responds to your presence by settling into a steadier rhythm, its flames taking on the quality of breathing, rising and falling with the same gentle persistence as the rain above. The light it casts seems to grow warmer, more golden, as if recognizing that you are no longer just a visitor, but a participant in the cottage's ongoing story of transformation. Outside, the three streams continue their eternal conversation beneath the ancient oak, their voices joining with the rain to create a symphony of sanctuary that speaks directly to the deepest chambers of your heart. You are surrounded by the sound of healing itself, the music that plays when broken things are made whole, when scattered spirits are gathered back into unity. The cottage keeper's presence beside the fire becomes part of your own sense of safety, their quiet breathing another thread in the tapestry of peace that surrounds you. They have become so much a part of this place that their very existence here adds to its power to heal, their accumulated years of tending this threshold transforming them into a living embodiment of the cottage's purpose. Feel how the cottage's blessing settles over you like the gentlest rain, soaking through layers of protection you built around your heart until it reaches the tender places that have been waiting so long for this kind of sanctuary. The healing happens not all at once but gradually, naturally, like dawn breaking over hills that have waited through the longest night for the return of light. Your story is joining the vast chorus of stories that this cottage holds, your voice adding its unique note to the eternal song of souls who have found rest after wandering, peace after struggle, hope after despair. The rain above continues its faithful percussion, drumming out the rhythm of your own transformation as you sink deeper into the embrace of stone and timber that has sheltered countless others who arrived just as lost and weary as you were when you first glimpsed the cottage's welcoming light through the storm. The rain's volume gradually increases above the cottage roof, its percussion growing richer and more complex, as if the very sky recognizes that your soul has reached the moment of deepest surrender. Each drop strikes the ancient thatch with purpose now, washing away not just the physical residue of your journey through the storm, but the deeper accumulations of worry and burden that have clung to your spirit like dust on a traveler's cloak. Listen to how the sound transforms as you sink deeper into the cottage's embrace. What began as simple rainfall has become a symphony of cleansing, each drop carrying away fragments of the day's anxieties, the week's disappointments, the months and years of accumulated weariness that you have carried without even realizing their weight. The cottage knows exactly what needs to be washed clean, and the rain responds with the precision of a master healer, targeting the places where tension has taken root in your body and spirit. The cottage keeper's voice grows softer now, blending seamlessly with the storm's lullaby until you cannot tell where spoken comfort ends and the rain's whispered blessings begin. Their words become part of the cottage's own voice, the accumulated wisdom of centuries of sheltering souls distilled into syllables that fall like gentle precipitation on the parched landscape of your heart. Feel how the ancient peace settles into your bones, the keeper murmurs, their voice carrying the same steady rhythm as the rain above. This is not the temporary quiet that comes from mere absence of noise, but the profound stillness that exists at the center of all storms, the eye of calm that remains untouched, no matter how fierce the winds may blow around it. The cottage itself seems to breathe around you now, its walls expanding and contracting with the slow rhythm of deep sleep, its timbers creaking softly like the comfortable sounds of an old friend settling in for the night. You have become part of this breathing, your own lungs matching the cottage's ancient rhythm until there is no separation between your need for rest and the sanctuary's capacity to provide it. Feel the ancient peace settling into your bones like gentle rainfall soaking into earth that has been too long without water. This peace is not something you must grasp or hold on to, but something that flows into you naturally, inevitably, the way water finds its level or seeds find soil. The cottage has been gathering this tranquility for centuries, storing it in every stone and beam, and now it offers itself to you with the generous abundance of rain after drought. Your muscles begin to release tensions you didn't even know you were carrying, knots of stress dissolving like salt in warm water. The chair beneath you seems to adjust itself to cradle each part of your body that has been holding on to worry, providing exactly the support needed for true surrender. This is furniture that has learned the art of comfort through centuries of practice, shaped by countless bodies that have found rest in its embrace. The cottage keeper moves quietly around the room now, their footsteps as soft as raindrops on moss, tending to small tasks that somehow contribute to the deepening atmosphere of peace. They add herbs to the fire that release fragrances of lavender and chamomile into the air, scents that carry the memory of moonlit meadows where healing plants grow wild and free. They adjust the position of candles so their light falls more gently on your face, creating pools of golden warmth that seem to melt away the last traces of the storm's chill from your bones. Your eyes grow heavy now, not with ordinary tiredness, but with the profound relaxation that comes when the soul recognizes it has finally found safe harbor. The cottage's blessing wraps around you like the warmest blanket, woven from threads of accumulated prayer and seasoned with the salt of grateful tears shed by countless travelers who found more than shelter within these walls. The rain continues its eternal vigil above, each drop a guardian watching over your descent into the deepest rest. This is not sleep as you have known it in the ordinary world, but something far more restorative, a return to the original peace that existed before worry was invented, before fear learned to masquerade as wisdom, before the heart forgot that it was made for joy rather than sorrow. The cottage holds you now in its ancient embrace, your breathing so synchronized with the rain's rhythm that you have become part of its eternal song. The keeper's voice fades to a whisper that blends completely with the storm's lullaby, carrying you deeper into rest with each gentle word, each blessed drop that falls like liquid prayer on the roof above your head. Drift into dreams as rain keeps its faithful watch above, each drop a blessing that will follow you into the realm of sleep and beyond. The cottage holds you in its timeless embrace, while storms of healing wash through your spirit, carrying away everything that no longer serves your peace. When morning comes, You may choose to continue your journey into the wider world, carrying within you the gift of true rest that this sanctuary has woven into your very being. Or perhaps you will discover, as some travelers do, that you have found your true home at last. The cottage will remember you always, your story now part of its eternal collection of souls restored and hearts made whole. The rain will carry your peace forward to future travelers who will benefit from the healing you have received here. Whether you leave or stay, you are forever part of this sacred story, connected across time to all who have found sanctuary within these ancient walls. The cottage's lamp burns eternal in its window, ready to welcome you back whenever your soul needs the deep rest that only this threshold between worlds can provide. Subscribe to return to this sanctuary whenever your spirit calls for the healing rain and candlelit peace that waits beyond the storm. The cottage knows exactly what needs to be washed clean, and the rain responds with the precision of a master healer, targeting the places where tension has taken root in your body and spirit. The cottage keeper's voice grows softer now, blending seamlessly with the storm's lullaby until you cannot tell where spoken comfort ends and the rain's whispered blessings begin. Their words become part of the cottage's own voice, the accumulated wisdom of centuries of sheltering souls distilled into syllables that fall like gentle precipitation on the parched landscape of your heart. Feel how the ancient peace settles into your bones, the keeper murmurs, their voice carrying the same steady rhythm as the rain above. This is not the temporary quiet that comes from mere absence of noise, but the profound stillness that exists at the center of all storms, the eye of calm that remains untouched no matter how fierce the winds may blow around it. The cottage itself seems to breathe around you now, its walls expanding and contracting with the slow rhythm of deep sleep, its timbers creaking softly like the comfortable sounds of an old friend settling in for the night. You have become part of this breathing, your own lungs matching the cottage's ancient rhythm, until there is no separation between your need for rest and the sanctuary's capacity to provide it. Feel the ancient peace settling into your bones like gentle rainfall soaking into earth that has been too long without water. This peace is not something you must grasp or hold on to, but something that flows into you naturally, inevitably, the way water finds its level or seeds find soil. The cottage has been gathering this tranquility for centuries, storing it in every stone and beam, and now it offers itself to you with the generous abundance of rain after drought. Your muscles begin to release tensions you didn't even know you were carrying, knots of stress dissolving like salt in warm water. The chair beneath you seems to adjust itself to cradle each part of your body that has been holding on to worry, providing exactly the support needed for true surrender. This is furniture that has learned the art of comfort through centuries of practice, shaped by countless bodies that have found rest in its embrace. The cottage keeper moves quietly around the room now, their footsteps as soft as raindrops on moss, tending to small tasks that somehow contribute to the deepening atmosphere of peace. They add herbs to the fire that release fragrances of lavender and chamomile into the air, scents that carry the memory of moonlit meadows where healing plants grow wild and free. They adjust the position of candles so their light falls more gently on your face, creating pools of golden warmth that seem to melt away the last traces of the storm's chill from your bones. Your eyes grow heavy now, not with ordinary tiredness, but with the profound relaxation that comes when the soul recognizes it has finally found safe harbor. The cottage's blessing wraps around you like the warmest blanket, woven from threads of accumulated prayer and seasoned with the salt of grateful tears shed by countless travelers who found more than shelter within these walls. The rain continues its eternal vigil above, each drop a guardian watching over your descent into the deepest rest. This is not sleep as you have known it in the ordinary world, but something far more restorative. A return to the original peace that existed before worry was invented, before fear learned to masquerade as wisdom, before the heart forgot that it was made for joy rather than sorrow. The cottage holds you now in its ancient embrace, your breathing so synchronized with the rain's rhythm that you have become part of its eternal song. The keeper's voice fades to a whisper that blends completely with the storm's lullaby, carrying you deeper into rest with each gentle word, each blessed drop that falls like liquid prayer on the roof above your head. Drift into dreams as rain keeps its faithful watch above, each drop a blessing that will follow you into the realm of sleep and beyond. The cottage holds you in its timeless embrace, while storms of healing wash through your spirit, carrying away everything that no longer serves your peace. When morning comes, you may choose to continue your journey into the wider world, carrying within you the gift of true rest that this sanctuary has woven into your very being. Or perhaps you will discover, as some travelers do, that you have found your true home at last. The cottage will remember you always, your story now part of its eternal collection of souls restored and hearts made whole. The rain will carry your peace forward to future travelers who will benefit from the healing you have received here. Whether you leave or stay, you are forever part of this sacred story, connected across time to all who have found sanctuary within these ancient walls. The cottage's lamp burns eternal in its window, ready to welcome you back whenever your soul needs the deep rest that only this threshold between worlds can provide. Subscribe to return to this sanctuary whenever your spirit calls for the healing rain and candlelit peace that waits beyond the storm.